completely shifted. And by that point, interestingly enough, even though Gen X is a much smaller generation, by that point, Gen X was making up the majority of volunteers in both raw numbers and percentages, with millennials in second place and baby boomers running third. And this was a shift that happened over 3 years. So there are generational differences, right? I mean, there's the whole issue of some things are more about, you know, being 25 or 45 or 65, but there are actual generational differences between those three generations. And because of that, they're looking for different things in volunteerism. So baby boomers tend to be very much, you know, we're doing this for the good of the organization, for the good of our profession, our industry, our cause. And with that, they've historically been very happy with a structured committee where, you know, they can join it, and there's a clear path. Okay, you know, first I join the committee, and then I become vice chair, and then I become the chair, and then, you know, after I've done a few of these, I can look to the board and maybe get on the board, and, you know, then work my way up to maybe being chair of the board. And they like this idea of a structured path. And a clear path, and being able to put, you know, I was chair of this committee or chair of this board or whatever on their resume. You know, that's something they're looking for in their volunteer experience. Gen X and millennials are looking for very different things. So Gen Xers are at this point mostly in their core parenting years. That means a couple of things. One is their volunteer needs and wants and desires tend to be more community focused, like our Little League coach up here with his team. And both because of life stage, again, core parenting years, and also because of generational characteristics, they tend to be people who like to get in, get out, be very task focused, very goal focused. They don't particularly care about structure or hierarchy or organization or position or any of that. They want to be efficient and GSD, get stuff done, and see impact and move on. And so, you know, this, again, a committee model there, not really so suitable for that sort of be very efficient, be task-oriented, get it done, and get back to coaching Little League. Millennials, and then as a third group, are early in their career, for the most part. The oldest millennials are just hitting 30 right now. And so they also have a very different goal when they're looking at volunteerism. They're people who are trying to build professional skills and leadership skills, and that's what they're looking for in their volunteer experiences. So again, position and hierarchy, not quite such a big deal for them. They really want to build their skills. And a standing committee model doesn't necessarily help with that either. There's also the problem of groupthink. So there have been a number of studies on this, including one that was reported in the New York Times in 2012, where social scientists look at group decision making. How do groups make decisions? What leads to the best outcomes in group decision making? And we all tend to think that groups will make the best decisions because you've got a bunch of different viewpoints and you've got the interplay of ideas, and, you know, it's the whole thing of iron sharpening iron, and the challenge of ideas will let the best one come out. And so, you know, obviously, as we're working in a committee, we're going to make a better decision. Studies found the complete opposite of that. What they found tends to happen in group situations with decision making, particularly in groups that are larger than 7, which most of our committees and boards are, is that everybody goes to groupthink. So what happens is whoever's the first speaker, that tends to be the idea that everybody goes with, because people are unwilling to challenge each other because they don't want to upset anyone or hurt anybody's feelings. They tend to cave to peer pressure, and in a larger, again, a group larger than 7, people have a tendency to be willing to sit back and let others do the work. I mean, we all know this, right? It's the 80-20 rule. 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. That's groupthink at work. And so what happens is, because of those factors, groups actually make worse decisions than individuals or very small groups. The third problem, of course, is limited involvement. And by this I mean 2 things. Number one is, when you've got a board or a committee, whether it's got 1 member, well, not 1, but, you know, 2 members or 10 members or 100 members or 1,000 members, it's still not infinity members. I mean, there are only so many seats at the table. And, you know, eventually they're all full and no one else can join. That's not the most insidious problem, though. The most insidious problem with limiting involvement is that when you think about things like standing committees or boards,